Jerry Spinelli. We know the character's real name is Jeffrey, but now he's Maniac Magee. Maniac Magee.
Good morning, class. How are we doing today? Wow, that tempo's still on, huh? I'm gonna turn that off. That's a metronome you hear. That's frustrating. Well, today's gonna be a little different because you might notice that I have a haircut. Hopefully, Mrs. Driscoll is starting to cut my hair right this second. Say hi, Mrs. Driscoll.
Hello.
Okay, so please ignore the snippings, but you gotta multitask. That's part of growing up. You learn a lot about it. Multitasking. Chapter 31, page 112. Quick reflection. Grayson found Maniac pretty sick, possibly near death, sleeping in the zoo. Took him in, gave him his own place to live in the baseball room or the equipment room. Taught him how to play baseball. Maniac, in turn, taught Grayson how to read. They slowly but surely moved into the baseball equipment room together, made it their own apartment, and they had Thanksgiving together, and now when we left them off, it was the best Christmas season and the most Christmassy little apartment ever seen. So let's start our reading. That's where we begin today. 31, page 112. It was still dark when Maniac awoke on Christmas morning. Within an hour or two, the holiday would come bounding down the stairs and squealing around the tinsel trees of 2 mills. But for the moment, Christmas bided its time outside, a purer presence. Maniac shook Grayson awake, but stayed the old man's hand when he reached to turn on the light. They bundled themselves and ventured into the silent night. Maniac carried a paper bag. Snow had fallen several days before. In much of the town, it had been plowed, shoveled, slushed away. But in the park, along the creek, the woods, the playing fields, the playground, it still lay undisturbed, save for the tracks of rabbits and squirrels. Beyond the tall pines, stars glittered like snowflakes, reluctant to fall. They visited their tree. They stood silently, just to be near it, letting the magic of it drift over them. In the pine-patched moonlight, the Queen Anne's goblets looked for all the world like filigreed silver. They walked the creek woods all the way to the zoo, meandering wordlessly throughout the snowy enchantment. As if by design, they both stopped at the same spot, above the half-submerged rooty clump of a fallen tree. Somewhere under there, they knew, was the den of a family of muskrats. The old man laid a pine branch at the doorway. Maniac whispered, "Merry Christmas." They visited the animals at the zoo, at least the outdoor ones, wishing them a happy holiday. The ducks seemed particularly pleased to see them. By the time they came to the buffalo pen, dawn was showing through the trees. Before the old man finished saying, "Want a boost?" Maniac was up and over the fence. If Mother Buffalo was glad to see the fence-hopping human again, she sure didn't show it. But Baby came trotting on over, and the two of them had a warm reunion. Before leaving, Maniac reached into the paper bag and brought out a present. "For you," he said. It was a scarf, or rather, 3 scarves, tied together. He wrapped them around Baby's neck. "Next year, I'll get you stockings for your horns," he grinned. "If you have them by then." A final nuzzle, and he was back over the fence. They headed back home as the town awoke. Breakfast was eggnog and hot tea and cookies and carols and colored lights and love. As in all happy Christmas homes, the gifts were under the tree. Maniac gave Grayson a pair of gloves and a woolen cap and a book. The book did not appear to be as sturdy as the others lying around. The cover was blue construction paper, and the spine, instead of being bound, was stapled. The text was hand-lettered, page 114, and the pictures were stick figures. The title was The Man Who Struck Out Willie Mays. The author's name, which Grayson read aloud with some difficulty, was Jeffrey L. Magee. Maniac, in his turn, opened packages to find a pair of gloves, a box of butterscotch crimpets, and a spanking snow-white, never-ever-used baseball. He was overjoyed. He rushed to the old man and hugged him. The old man put up with that for about a second, then pulled away. "Hold on," he said. He went to one of the baseball equipment bags and reached in, tunneled down to the bottom, and came up with another package. This one wrapped crudely in newspaper. "Hiding this'n," he said. "Didn't know if you're the kind of kid sneaks and looks." Maniac tore it open and gasped helplessly when he saw what it was. To anyone else, it was a ratty old scrap of leather, barely recognizable as a baseball glove, fit for the garbage can. But Maniac knew at once this was Grayson's, the one he had played with for all those years in the minors. It was limp, flat, the pocket long since gone. Slowly, timidly, as though entering a shrine, the boy's fingers crept into it, flexed, curled the cracked leather, brought it back to shape, to life. He laid the new ball in his palm, pressed glove and ball together, and the glove remembered and gave way and made a pocket for the ball. The boy could not take his eyes off the glove. The old man could not take his eyes off the boy. The record player finished the Christmas polka and clicked off, and for a long time there was silence. 5 days later, the old man was dead. Chapter 32, 115. Most mornings, Grayson would be the first one out of bed. He would turn on the space heater, he would visit the bandshell lavatory, then heat up some water, get breakfast ready, and finally wake the boy with a gentle shake of the shoulder. On December 30th, it was the silence that woke Maniac. And the cold. The space heater wasn't on. No steaming cups sat on the table. The old man was still under the covers. Maniac went over. "Grayson!" He shook the old man. "Grayson?" He took the old man's hand. It was cold. "Grayson!" He didn't run to the superintendent's office. He didn't run to the nearest house. He knew. He held the cold, limp hand that had thrown the pitch, that had struck out Willie Mays, that had betrayed the old man's stoic ways by giving him a squeeze. He began talking to the old man about places he had been on the road, about places the two of them might have gone to, about everything. Then he began to read aloud. He read aloud all the books the old man had learned to read. And he finished with the old man's favorite, Mike Mulligan's Steam Shovel. When he looked out the window, it was night. He dragged his chest protectors alongside the old man's mat and lay down, and only then, when he closed his eyes, did he cry. The funeral, such as it was, took place on the 3rd day of the new year. Maniac had at last gone to tell someone, the zookeeper, and from then on, he pretty much stayed out of the way. Grayson came to the cemetery in a wooden box. The pallbearers were unknown to Maniac. They were members of the town's trash collecting corps, and as they huffed and bent to lay the box over the hole, they smelled vaguely of pine and of rotten fruit. Maniac was the only mourner. He had thought the park superintendent might show, or the attendant at the Y locker room, or maybe the lady who ran the park food stand in summer. None was there. Only Maniac and the man from the funeral home and the 6 pallbearers, 2 men off to the side, smoking cigarettes and leaning on a little hole-digging tractor that made Maniac think of something. He smiled inwardly. "Hey, Grayson, look, Mike Mulligan's steam shovel had a baby." High above, a silver plane crossed the sky, silent as a spider. A voice startled Maniac. "When's he coming?" It was one of the pallbearers. The man from the funeral home pushed down the top of his black leather glove to expose his watch. "Should be here now. Should have been here 5 minutes ago. How long we gotta wait?" The funeral man shrugged. All but one of the pallbearers lit up cigarettes. Maniac wished he hadn't come. This event had nothing to do with the man once lived in the body in the wooden box. This event had nothing to do with the man who once lived in the body in the wooden box. "I'm freezing my kachungas off," a pallbearer announced. "Me too," said another. "Hey, you know," called one of the gravediggers, We ain't waiting all day to fill in that hole." Everyone looked at the man in the long black coat. He looked again at his watch. "Traffic, probably." "The minister," thought Maniac. "That's who we're waiting for." A pallbearer walked over to the funeral man. "We hauled the stiff here. Ain't that enough?" "That only gives us an hour." "They only give us an hour." Another pallbearer chimed in. "Let's go get some donuts." "Coffee, baby." Loud clanks. A gravedigger was striking the baby steam shovel with a spade. The funeral man sighed. He pulled out his own cigarette, lit it from the glowing tip on the pallbearers. "Give it 2 more minutes. Then we'll see." Maniac waited for one of those minutes, searching the horizon for signs of a minister. Whatever was going to happen at the end of the next minute, he didn't want to see it. So he ran. "Hey, kid!" they called. "Yo, kid!" But he was running. Running.
Maniac Magee took a sad turn on you and me. Why'd you have to do it, Spade?